All right, grand rising and great tidings, one and all. Hope all is going well out there in the world. It is Sunday, the beginning of the week. Well, at least that's usually when my week begins. And so, welcome you to this day 8 of Materializing Wealth, a quantum wizardry experience where we dive deeply into these concepts of these universal. Whoa, that's really high. Hold on one minute. I thought I had this off. Well, at least that's usually. There we go. Whoops. Had that on full blast. Apologies. Anyway, so we're talking about universal laws and how that works in the process of materialization, using this as sort of a condition of one. And so I am focusing my attention upon this in terms of wealth, and that wealth being described per my definition as the bountiful expression of universal love. So now on day 8, going into the principle of polarity. And looking at this in terms of not exclusivity, which could be like a dualistic, something is either or something or another, and rather just on the broad spectrum of an experience. And so as we look at this in terms of how does that relate to all the things that are happening, is really just identifying what's going on within my life and those areas that I start to experience either hardship or those experiences that are difficult. Good way to look at that is that it's on the spectrum of something else. And I think of this in terms of sort of the concepts of breaking the speed of sound, and how as we approach a certain threshold, the very edges of our own reality, if you will, how then that can be an experience which is rather, while tremendous, can sometimes be experienced personally as rather terrible. You know, as we start to get into those very edges, we get into a place where that vibration, as we were talking about previously, can really start to kick into play. Now, there's a lot to this. One area that we're really looking at is in terms of our own self-perception and sort of the very edges of identity. Now, all that means is that we have within our subconscious mind a certain perception of who we are, which then gives us biased lenses in terms of perspective. And so as we get into those edges, especially as we are looking at growing beyond the box that we have created for ourselves, then what is it that we are experiencing except for a reactivity, something that may lead to anger or fear or embarrassment or whatever that emotion may be for you. As we talked about in terms of the law of vibration, that everything is in constant motion, then what happens when the spectrum of our experience drops into those lower vibrational frequencies? And recognizing that if I'm in a place of fear, there's also a place of courage, of love that I can shift to as well. This kind of brings in that aspect of that kick-ass playlist that we worked on, which I more or less have done. I'm going to be posting that to the video in just a bit. And being able to shift, because there's a certain alchemy to it, right? When we experience these emotions, we have the capacity to be present with it and to move on and beyond. Just knowing that this is a part of our experience brings up parts and pieces of ourselves that may still be in a place of not just disbelief, also in a place of hurt. And so we want to be able to acknowledge whatever that is. However, we don't necessarily want to dwell there. And so how are we able to shift out of that is what we're going to be playing with for the next couple of days as we really sit with and in the presence of this concept of polarity, which leads into a subcategory, which I'll talk about tomorrow in terms of this concept of coherence. For now, though, just be very attentive as we go through this, that we're getting to the very edges of our comfort, that comfort zone that we always talk about, someplace that is familiar, is something that can also ultimately work against our own progress and indeed the very evolution of who we are. That's it for now, though. It's time to go for a walk.